if a recruiter in finance receives a CV like this, they're not gonna even read the first line. We're saying that to show you what is the reality in the finance recruitment. Hi everyone, welcome to TheLeverage, the podcast where we deep dive into careers in finance. Today we're gonna have a very exciting first episode, and I'm very happy that I'm gonna co-host this first episode with my co-founder Alessandro.
I'm very happy to be here. So with Marco, I co-founded Alter Fellowship, and beyond that, I work at Blackstone, where I'm an analyst in the real estate private equity team in London.
Our mission is to connect students with high finance professionals, and we want to bridge that gap of all the untold rules on how to break into high finance, investment banking, private equity, venture capital, sales and trading, and so on, right?
Yeah. We hope the students can get some insights from people who work in the industry already and have been there before.
You can start connecting with Alter Fellowship members. Join our open group that it's called Cosmos. You find the link below in the description. But without further ado, let's start. We received a lot of CVs and we reviewed them in an online event that we hosted with Cosmos, with our group, and we chose 3 of them. So today we're gonna give you like the best practices and tips that we gathered from our experience, from our mentors, and we're gonna tell you everything that you need to know to build the perfect CV to break into high finance, right? So let's start.
Yeah. So you want to pick?
Yeah, I'm gonna pay. Let's start from the middle.
This one right here is, I think a very good CV. This is very well done. Beyond like the companies the person worked at, I think the structure is spot on. So when you work in finance in general, you want to have a very simple and boring structure, which is education, then work experience, and then a section for leadership activities and extracurriculars.
Yeah, that's it's very peculiar in general because many like in all the other industry they're required to do like something that catches the attention, while in finance it's absolutely the opposite, right? You have
Yes,
to
exactly.
do a very standardized format.
Yeah, there's no room for creativity here, so you have to be like everybody else, but you still have to use the right tactics and tips to stand out. So starting from the education section right here, I think it's very well done. It's always good to show the GPA, but only if it's quite high and at least above average. Then it's always useful to list relevant coursework and what you have studied, and you can use it as a tip to, add verticality to your profile. So if you're targeting roles in capital markets, you want to list courses in like mathematics, statistics, and these kind of subjects. Whereas
Yeah.
if you want to break into investment banking, it's good to list, courses in corporate finance.
Yeah, so if you're a younger student, keep that in mind. So instead of just thinking on how to actually build a CV, so actually making it as a file, try to also think about your academic path in order to, okay, I'm gonna do this course, first of all, because I'm interested, of course, but then I'm gonna put it in the CV and it's gonna also make it more outstanding than the average.
Like the various sections have to be consistent. So you should be able to kind of tell a story through your CV, be able to show the recruiter what you really want to do.
Yeah. Moving on.
So yeah, moving on to the work experience section. I think this is well done in the sense that in general you should have one sentence per bullet. So you shouldn't be too verbose when you write about what you've done and the tasks that you have taken care of before. Each bullet point should be one skill you want to convey to the reader. Avoid being too verbose and using too long sentences. Which is something that in this CV is very well done. Try to quantify as much as you can the impact of what you did. So, for instance, if you have automated some processes and created, I don't know, an automatic model on Excel or something, you should be able to, maybe say that you have saved the team 1 hour per company profile, something like this.
Yeah.
Something else this person has done very well is something that you don't see very often, but I think is a good idea, is to put a very brief summary and description of what the company does, especially if it's not too well known.
Yeah.
Just a one-liner saying, I don't know, this guy has mentioned the asset under management, which I think is a very good idea, and a very brief description of the company in general. In the extracurriculars, I think here, I mean, in general, this section is something where you can talk about your leadership experiences, and you can add some color about what you have done beyond your studies, which is something very important in finance.
Imagine always that recruiters receive thousands and thousands of CVs. All of them, in terms of the format, are exactly the same. So you have to find that specific detail inside your CV that distinguishes yourself from the other candidates, right?
I think something that could have been done slightly better in this section would have been mentioning, adding more color around, this person said led event coordination. So how many events, how big those events were.
Yeah. So give more context on what you do, the impact of what you do, and give proper numbers on everything. You have to try to give a measure to everything that you put in your CV.
Yes. So, and moving on to the last section, which is very often overlooked, people think it's not important. I would say is rather very important, especially the interest section, because very often it's a hook with which you can start or like end the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And something very well done here is writing something very unique, because this person writes alternative proteins, which I have no idea what that
Alternative
means.
what?
Alternative proteins, right here.
So maybe it's like the meat, the vegan meat.
I have no idea, and that's exactly the point, right? Because
Yeah, that's super interesting.
when you do an interview, you want the interviewer to, ask you like, what the
Yeah.
hell is alternative proteins?
Yeah, it immediately catches the attention. And you always have to remember that finance is a people business. So if you start having a first connection with the recruiter, you're already moving the right step, the first right step.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's move on with the other CV.
We can go with this one, I would say, which
Yeah, let's see it.
is quite far from what we have seen before, I would say.
There are some things that already
Yeah.
catches my attention. It's not the standardized format, so there are this weird, just like this weird table.
Very, very unusual.
And then I see some blue text, which means it was a link.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have time to click through the links.
Yeah, also something else is that when you put links, it happened in the past that some companies were just rejecting CVs and applications because their ATS
Yeah.
was filtering out the CVs that had some links in them. So it was good to not to have them.
Yeah, and the first link that I see on the top is the LinkedIn profile, and it's completely useless because it's basically a copy of what you're already saying in your CV. So you're saying, look at my CV and then go on LinkedIn to see exactly the same things. I mean, it's supposed to be exactly the same thing. It's just the digital version of your CV. So there's no point of adding LinkedIn, at least in the finance.
Like nobody's going to open that link anyways. Then something else that comes to my attention is that it's a lot of bold text, which means that nothing is really important. Like if you should use bold if you want to highlight something which is indeed important.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas here it's used in basically every bullet point, which means that nothing is really important, which is something you want to avoid.
Yep.
I mean, beyond that, you should really avoid using such a template because it's not common and people won't be happy about it.
Yeah.
Simply.
Yeah, absolutely. So in general, just to say it straight, if a recruiter in finance receives a CV like this, they're not gonna even read it.
Yeah.
They're not gonna even read the first line. So they're gonna immediately reject it. So we're not saying that to be rude, but we're saying that to show you what is the reality in the finance recruitment. That is very, very selective. It's very competitive. Recruiters receive thousands and thousands of CVs all at the same day, all at the same time, and they have zero time. Probably most of them are directly rejected by ATS systems.
Okay, so we can move on to the last one right here, and yeah, the format is the good one. Is the standard investment banking template, which is what you want to have. So moving on to the education section, this person listed, I think, a summer school in advanced corporate finance, which is something I wouldn't necessarily put in the education section because I mean it was just 1 month or something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe just at the bottom of your CV in the extracurricular activities or other things you've done. But I'm not sure it's worth mentioning it in the education section again.
Okay, I can see why probably he's doing that, because he's studying in a semi-target school, Italian semi-target school, which is Luis, and then he tried to compensate with a summer school, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not sure that a summer school is enough. For
Yeah.
sure, is something
Yeah.
worth mentioning, but not in the education section, I would say.
Yeah.
And then here in the relevant courses, this person makes like accounting courses with macroeconomics, statistics, and these kind of things, which is not ideal because if you, again, as I said before, if you want to do markets or sales and trading roles, then it's fine to have macroeconomics, statistics, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if you're targeting corporate finance, you want to have ideally accounting courses. So, in my opinion, it's not ideal to like mix corporate finance accounting courses with more quantitative stuff you have done.
Mm-mm.
Moving on to the professional experience section, I think this is overall quite verbose. It's very long sentences. Like each bullet point goes on two separate lines, so you want to have ideally one line per bullet point. And I'm sure that if this guy runs this CV through like Claude or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
there's just a way to condense the sentences and make it more
Yeah, absolutely.
efficient. And something else this person is doing is using semicolons here, like in the Barclays Investment Banking bullet point. Just break it down and have two bullet points on two
Yep.
different lines.
Yep.
Also, something you should avoid at all costs is like this person wrote the general description of every investment banking summer insight program in the world. Avoid doing this. Be specific about the things you've done. Like if you have, done some modeling competitions or you have seen some case studies in your spring week, just mention that. Like in every investment banking spring week in the world, you're gonna engage with analysts and VPs. This is not distinctive at all. So, and yeah, moving on to the very last section here. I'm not a huge fan of adding certifications to your CV because it means very little. Like it's not distinctive at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone can get a Bloomberg market concept certificate, so it's not distinctive again. It's not worth sacrificing some space to something which doesn't really add value, I would say.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Ale, for your insights and your tips on how to build the perfect resume for high finance. If you want more tips and you want your CV being reviewed by Ale or by other mentors in Altar Fellowship, you can join Cosmos by clicking the link that you find in the description in the first line. And we can't wait to have you in Altar Fellowship. Subscribe to the channel if you want to have other videos like this and where we deep dive into the careers in finance with other professionals in the industry. And see you in the next episode. Thank you, Ale.
Thank you, Marco, and I'll wait for you guys in the Alter Fellowship.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Thank you.